A great deal has transpired in the private sector. I have some inquiries regarding the Diddy case. How, for example, will the defense fare? Is the government's case still unproven? Who will emerge victorious? And an A-list lawyer would be the ideal person to consult with for such inquiries. Someone who represents Drake and Travis Scott, maybe? Well, I suppose that will be our course of action. As seen on Law and Crime, this is Scandal. Hi, my name is Sierra Gillespie. Today on Scandal, we're delighted to have one of our favorite guests, who also happens to be rather famous on screen. Drake and Travis Scott are among his clientele. I need Bradford Cohen's, the legendary criminal defense attorney, opinion on Diddy, of course. Would you like to know who Diddy is? Who really is inquiring now. However, he goes by quite a few names. All the way from Puffy to Puff to Diddy to Puff to Diddy to Puff. All this to indicate that this man has a multitude of aliases, including Daddy and Love, but his legal name is Sean Combs. By the way, he has pleaded not guilty to all 5 federal allegations against him, which include racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, deception or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He also has a couple more legal difficulties. From what we have gathered, we are currently involved with the government's case, and this has all been going on for approximately 6 weeks. To be honest, we've heard quite a bit. To begin, there is the evidence of witnesses. Like Mia and Jane, Cassie is one of 2 women who gave testimony using a pseudonym. Brendan Paul, who is allegedly a drug mule and P. Diddy's former assistant is anticipated to contact us soon. There is a great deal of convincing evidence. Even more so, the jury has viewed a mountain of evidence. Subject at hand is texts, such instance when Jane or Cassie send extremely angry text regarding Diddy. However, there are texts where the person expresses a strong desire to FCK off or freak out. They were allegedly paying sex workers to take part in these freak shows, according to the communications. Some bills have been seen by us. Hotel rooms are damaged to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, the jurors have seen the baby oil and lube, which has been a topic of conversation for over a year now. I can't stop thinking about all those bottles of baby oil and lube, even though it's been a year since I found out about them. Additionally, the jurors have seen the freak off of videos. By the way, I know that some of you were offended that I mentioned purported freak-off videos in the earlier comments, but that's just my opinion. The fact that I was unable to view the video compels me to state this legally. Secondly, it was seen exclusively to the jury, so you won't either. The third one, Diddy is free from criminal charges. We will not find him guilty unless we do. The prosecution's case, however, is coming to a close, and the defense will soon launch its case. In addition, the defense's argument, evidence, and witnesses will be presented over the course of 2 to 5 days. With the defense presenting their case for 2 to 5 days, the jury will begin deliberations in due course. Plus, we could find out what kind of decision they make. So, keep in mind all of those inquiries I made earlier. The winner is who will emerge victorious. National security. What kind of defense can Diddy expect from his squad? Can you tell me what the verdict will be? Mopple, the verdict will be. This is the ideal transition before we introduce our knowledgeable visitor. The interview is here, so come on in, everyone. Bradford Cohen, a criminal defense attorney who has represented artists such as Drake and Travis Scott, is here to throw a party. We appreciate you getting back on board with us. Hey, how's it going? It's going swimmingly. Much obliged. From now on, I will be known as Bradford the Party Cohen. That is so cool. It is exceptional. On par with a weekend. Sure, I understand. Moving forward, Bradford will be the host.
Yes, I adore it.
Very well. By the way, who do you believe is winning this P. Diddy lawsuit so far? So far, all we've heard is the government's defense. What do you think? Totally insane because, listen, the charges are charges. From my perspective, it seems like a lot of negative things are happening. Does Rico's situation constitute sex trafficking on a federal level? In my opinion, they have solid evidence that he has engaged in activities that cross state lines, such as prostitution. They have shown that he has been paid to engage in prostitution, in my opinion. If you're ever on a jury and you hear a case like this, and it's always a pimp, the problem is... Do you agree? Additionally, it resembles someone who is engaging in human trafficking. Plus, it's not exactly something I'd set up and then ignore. All things considered, the testimony we've heard points to John's girlfriend being a willing participant at least part of the time, and he's getting a kick out of it. I see, and it's unclear if her motivation is to win over her partner or not. Perhaps a complimentary vacation is on the way to her doorstep. You know, I think it's really difficult for a jury to wrap their heads around the idea that she's been with this guy for 10 years, and then she breaks off the relationship and starts a love affair with someone else. She continues to text Diddy, expressing her excitement for another freak off. It seems a bit absurd to me. Who is thus the victor? Instead than focusing on who is winning, I like to mention who is scoring more points. In addition, I believe the defense is making numerous assertions about the state's side that may not be applicable in all instances. The administration has undoubtedly made numerous arguments. Basically, the government is claiming that these individuals are all witnesses, but even those witnesses aren't very credible. Witness credibility is an issue with some of these individuals. We can't choose our witnesses. So what happens? At the end, I know the government will say something along these lines, but it's nothing new. Who we have as witnesses, they have some flaws.
Everyone isn't flawless, but you still need to pay attention and believe what they say, even though you know better.
The number of competing forces is staggering, you know. Someone gives conflicting information. For example, a girl publicly stated her continued love for Sean Combs. I mean, there's a ton of bizarre testimony about the Punisher and all these other unusual stuff. Wow, I'm going to find this vile man guilty of something if the jury finds him guilty. Yeah, they never press charges, but I believe he is probably guilty, as I mentioned before. In all likelihood, he has crossed state boundaries and paid for prostitutes. At this stage, I am unsure if it qualifies as human trafficking. Rico may or may not have found enough in them. They have definitely proven it. Dude, he's high. Meth is his specialty. He is not prosecuting narcotics crimes. Therefore, he is not a drug dealer. Rico is a bit of a stretch here. So they could say, hey, take 10 because of they probably tossed it in as a negotiating chip, are going to receive 30 if you're found guilty of RICO. All right, I'll do my best to address all of your points raised in your response. Regarding RICO, I'll just go ahead and start with that since you touched on it briefly at the end. Nevertheless, I agree with you that the government hasn't proven this part 100%. I don't know if it's 100% proven if I were a juror going through it right now and going to sleep thinking about it. No, to get back to your question, why would they accuse him of that? I was thinking that would serve as a general category. It is, in a way, similar to those things. You know, the average Midwesterner probably associates the prosecutor's office, the federal government, and the United States with, at the attorney's office, they consistently get the job done right. Without fail, they succeed. The bad folks are their target. They investigate alleged crimes and other such matters. I've been in this industry for a long enough time to know it to be completely false. For vengeance, I've seen people launch cases against others. In my experience, some people will bring a lawsuit against someone they perceive as an evildoer. An evildoer, this is him. Because I believe a crime occurred in this case, we will be investigating it. Because no one else is involved or has been charged in this case, just Diddy. They overcharge in the hopes of getting a lesser charge, or a charge where I don't think there should be any. Typically, in cases involving RICO, there would be multiple defendants, a conspiracy to commit the crime, and all sorts of other elements. Whether or if immunity deals were given is something I am unaware of. In my view, every one of these women is a co-defendant. They are the ones who made the initial contact and set up the meeting, knew about the presence of prostitutes, and continued to engage in sexual activity with them, even when Diddy was not in the room. In my opinion, the jury is having a hard time comprehending why this man should be found guilty of trafficking in RICO. It isn't apparent to me. Plus, there are those who think you're just a fan of Diddy. It's not that I have any particular opinion. Rather, I've been in this field for so long that I can look at the facts objectively and ask myself, what am I looking at here if I'm a defense attorney or a prosecutor studying these cases? In my opinion, it falls short of that standard. My perceptions and observations lead me to believe that it is not present. Nevertheless, I could be entirely mistaken. Some of our videos contain comments that say things like, Cassie or Jane, you two should be co-defendants, or something along those lines. Some people find it hard to accept that you just said that. Does this also relate to their testimony, though? Reason being, they are meant to be the featured eyewitnesses. There are, however, female witnesses who admit that they did, in fact, make touch with the entertainer or escort in question. This person was approached by me. Yes, I did mention that I wanted to pull the freak off. If that's the case, why would they not face charges and instead serve as witnesses? I see. In my opinion, Cassie's lawyer was absolutely brilliant in how he framed the case and handled everything that happened. After the video of him assaulting her surfaced, I can see how the government would have felt embarrassed adding her as a co-defendant to the civil complaint he filed, which included several allegations of control and beatings. Does my gut tell me that these two were violent? In my opinion, this relationship involves domestic violence. Domestic violence may have been a part of his past relationships, in my opinion, despite the fact that he was described by several ladies as the most amiable man alive. My career was backed by him. Whoa. Even if she wasn't interested in that particular bag, he nevertheless offered me $20,000 to open a dress boutique and got me a Giuseppe or some other name for a purse. The need for an LV was intense. The testimony seems so bizarre. When you consider that this is the best the government has to offer, you start to wonder, what's the next step? Do you get my meaning? Plus, I have no idea. Perhaps it's not the greatest. These might not be the star witnesses. After all, I believe this is the greatest, but maybe there may be more celebrity witnesses later on. In my opinion, this is their best option. And who is it that the star says will arrive? There are no famous people who can testify against Brendan Paul, who has been accused of being a drug mule for a long time. Kid Cudi, or whatever his name is, steps up to the plate and claims, yeah, my Porsche was firebombed after Sean Combs said that he doesn't like me. Very well. I don't see any proof, though. There is zero proof that Sean Combs carried it out, gave the order, or was ever involved in any way. Therefore, I have no idea how that was even admitted in this case. Both fingerprints and writings have been found. Result. The government usually has evidence to support its claims when they make claims like these. Did someone send a message to Bob Smith or someone else advising him to bomb the hell out of that Porsche? And you know, it's completely empty. That, my friend, is the end of the story. To wrap things up, the king is essentially naked. You could say that the robe he's wearing is gorgeous or that the necklace adorning his neck is lovely. But all that matters is that he's wearing nothing. So yeah, is the guy weird in some ways? He's peculiar. Because it's subjective, I prefer not to use that word at all. So long as it doesn't harm anyone else, I can justify someone's actions if they're making them happy. No one is ever judged by me. You have no idea. On TikTok, I see girls treating guys like horses and asking, what is your algorithm? Unusual matters. In my opinion, it's strange. Perhaps it's just the way things are for them. You have no idea. Plus, I don't pass judgment on anyone since, well, it is what they do. Are there any instances in Sean Combs' relationships where the ladies he dated took pleasure in making him happy? I believe they had demonstrated that. Did they, however, establish that he coerced them into doing so? He put them in that predicament by his own hand? I think it's a huge hurdle for these females to get past the fact that their rich boyfriends take them on extravagant vacations and shower them with expensive accessories. On top of that, there are these texts that make you want to wait. You wait. This has to happen soon. This doesn't seem like someone who would say, hey, Diddy, I'm not feeling well this week. I haven't seen a single text message mentioning anything in this entire case. Avoiding it is my preference. Most of the passages are innocuous, and I beg you and plead with you not to make me do it. Wow, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. During a cross-examination, there have been a few messages where, as an example of my defensive thinking, Jane would answer, yeah, I'm not really in the mood, followed by questions about if he said anything nice or wrong. Okay. So the defense basically said something along the lines of, you might not like this guy in their opening statement. These are mature ladies who have made a decision. He may seem strange to you, but you might not. So, in your opinion, is it the defense's argument for demonstrating consent? Consent? Indeed, that is all. It's like it's about approval as well. It's more than just permission. That is what they desired. All right, I'll do it isn't quite the right word. We discussed it, you know? Very well. Oh, sure, I can handle that. Sure, I'll go out of my way to help you get a purse. As far as I'm concerned, it's not even that. The case facts involving Casey's abuse are not good. But listen, we all know that. I see. Furthermore, I do not believe that either men or women are ever the perpetrators of domestic abuse. An excellent fact, anyway, does not exist. It seems to me that their relationship was fraught with turmoil. I believe Diddy will be able to show that she was also somewhat aggressive, even though he doesn't need to justify his actions. Nonetheless, it's clear that this is a symbiotic relationship. My impression is that the connection was poisonous. I think she was immature for her age when it came to interpersonal dynamics like envy and the like, and I think he was similarly immature. While he's allowing her to have sex with other males, Sean Combs is likely quite envious of what's happening and how things are. Like I mentioned before, I'm not passing judgment on how this plays out. All I can think of is, where is the crime? See, how serious is the offense, and how do you propose punishing it? And believe they have shown that he transported prostitutes across state lines ultimately. In my opinion, every single woman who participated did the same thing. Tickets were purchased by them. I'm willing to bet that the government is aware of certain prostitutes who, if pressed, will claim that Cassie orchestrated their services. She gave me all the details I needed, including the airport to fly into and how I would be paid. Upon receiving my payment, she was the one who presented it to me. I am not sure you know. However, they will most certainly not call them to testify. I suppose it's challenging because we've heard Cassie say it before. I mean, we have read the transcripts and seen the reports since this is obviously not happening on television. Yes, I did organize it, Cassie did say. Well, she's the one that owns up to it all. I see. Thus, I suppose that is also an option. Contrarily, there is a great deal to discuss in relation to those freak-off films that were presented to the jury. I see. Do you have any opinions? That he was attempting to use things like as bargaining chips is, in my opinion, strengthened by her reasoning. However, to reiterate, I have not come across any texts that express the sentiment, hey, you're trying to use that against me in any way. If someone were to tell you, hey, if you say a word, I'm going to use this video, you would know they mean it. Your initial instinct would be to send the offending party a text message expressing your anger. Your plan to use that video as evidence against me is just unbelievable. Some kind of external proof that states, hey, this is true, is required, or at least recommended. Aside from her saying it, I have no idea whether the videos exist. This kind of thing gets filmed all the time. To be honest, that's the way things usually work. I don't think the video is too shocking on its own unless the subjects are unaware that they are being recorded, which I believe they are. At one point, they seem to be staring at the videotape. Interaction does exist, in my opinion. Sitting in the corner, mask and all, he's just chilling out. I mean, there's a lot happening here, but in one area, he's wearing his mask while these individuals fight, and it's all documented on film. Therefore, one of two things is happening. Recorded on video, or there's a secret camera in the hotel room, neither of which I find credible. I believe he had some sort of camera set up or was just filming it on his phone. There was probably no, oh my God, he's filming us moment. It appears that they were aware of the presence of the camera, as they have discussed it in their text conversations, especially when it comes to taxes. Seeing Pulp Fiction in my mind, am I right? Do you agree? With the zipper on the mouth, I know. Well, we're not exactly privy to the details, but we can tell you what happened. After briefly discussing the offense, I'd like to shift gears and focus on the defense, which was excellent overall. For 6 weeks, the government had a case. Very nice. We will have plenty for 2 to 5 days. A difference of 6 weeks compared to 2 days seems reasonable to me. Holy cow. All right, I wonder what they're thinking. Yeah, I really doubt they'll need all that much. How can I help them? Now they're arguing their case. It seems as if they are arguing their case using witnesses appointed by the administration. And therefore, it is unnecessary for them to remember some of these individuals. They're dominating them on the field. As far as the questioning goes, they have been quite effective on a few occasions. The author has presented arguments that you find convincing. The majority of the time, though, these cross-examinations are rather harsh. Like they're putting Brian Steele in, it's like they're diving in. Yeah, it's our specialty. I prefer Brian Steele, since he has experience with issues like these. Well, this isn't the kind of situation where you can just sit around and feel sorry for yourself. No, I get it. In that way, no, that's not right. In this instance, you need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these people are completely deceived by him. There must be some other way to put it, but that's basically our job description. On the other hand, I've dealt with similar circumstances where I felt sorry for the accused, wondering if I should intervene because this individual was particularly defenseless. The more I read, the more I realized that this is complete and utter bullshit. More and more evidence suggests that they were using their vulnerability to imply that you should believe them. Plus, you need to find a way to pull back that curtain. It can be quite challenging at times. Brian Steele is really making an impression. Each member of the defense squad has impressed me with their performance thus far. To be honest, I can't think of a single member of the defense squad whose actions, gestures, or requests are problematic. As far as Sean Combs is concerned, I believe they have been performing admirably. Oh, there will be a couple of days, so yeah. Hopefully, the government will bring in some specialists who can tell us how a lady in her position would respond or something along those lines. Everything else is complete bullshit, in my opinion. Since it's like, listen, everyone who's older than me, maybe even younger than 20, I truly do. A true love for another person is something that everyone has experienced. And you desire it even if it's just an imaginary love, not necessarily genuine love, but the thought that you would do anything for that person is something that everyone experiences. That is understood by all. Do you agree? Now you're attempting to say, oh no. Despite her feelings for the person, he was acting like a puppeteer and doing all these other things, the way she adored him. If you're truly in love with someone, you'll go to great lengths to ensure their happiness. Do you agree? You are not a victim just because it brings you no joy. That makes you the type of person who, because to their love for another, made poor decisions. Some ladies have confessed to being infatuated with bank robbers. Indeed, that is a foolish choice. Is it because he coerced her into doing it, which means that she was probably under his influence? Not at all. She was more concerned about whether or not it was a mental manipulation. It's just like, sure, when two people fall in love, they act foolishly. That is correct, you know. I see. For all time, I will remember it. I had no idea what my age was. Oprah Winfrey was on TV, and my mom and I were watching. Oprah Winfrey was a favorite of my mom's. Oprah Winfrey is on, so my mom and I are watching. This individual then goes on. He's making it clear that he loves this girl. Additionally, he claims that the girl had no interest in being involved with him. It even crossed his mind that she had feelings for him. It was as if he continued on. He went grocery shopping, grabbed up some groceries, and then confessed his love to her. This man is the biggest idiot I've ever met, I thought to myself. The woman informed the man, I don't want anything to do with you. As an example, I only need to persuade her, he says. Binna. So, when you're in that mental state, you act foolishly. I agree that Cassie should feel bad about all the foolish things she done. And now it's as if she's been victimized out of nowhere. That's my perspective. I don't care if someone accuses me of being the worst. That's just how I see it. It's as if you engaged in these behaviors at the time, continued to do so for years afterwards, and then got into a relationship, all the while texting your partner to express your love and how you would do anything for him. Now you're engaged to be married and planning a family, and you're still texting him. And then you're living in his mom's basement, you become involved with this man out of nowhere, and you sue Diddy for $20 million, and you're once again at the top. $10 million from the hotel and $20 million from him. Therefore, she deposits $30 million. Her lawyer probably pocketed 40% of that. However, you deposited $30 million long after the fact. Like I mentioned before, I would be quite emotional at this closing, but it doesn't work for me. That the prosecution's decision to prosecute him with such crimes is illogical. From what I've gathered, it seems quite tough to accuse him of these types of crimes. However, as I mentioned before, I'm not claiming he's perfect. A lot of what you're saying makes sense from the defense's perspective, and I appreciate you shedding light on that. I suppose this concludes my questions before we begin to deliberate. How do you think the jury will reach a decision? So, listen, I assure you, this is far from done. A government Hail Mary, in my opinion, might be absolutely game-changing. My guess is that he'll get off on 2 of the charges and convicted on the 3rd, but I could be wrong about 1 of the 3. My opinion is that way. A lot has transpired since then, you know. Even though he was removed from the jury, there was one juror whose history I found very interesting. The jury, yes, that juror became a friend of mine. I also believe it was unfair to kick him out since he provided proof that he lives in Nick and occasionally stays at his girlfriend's house in NJ. His evidence for such seemed to be with him. In my opinion, the court's decision to remove a juror is a grave matter. Throughout my career, I've experienced it just twice. I was able to disprove the juror's bias once. Incidentally, I was aware that she was on my side, but she shook her head the entire time. Yeah, I was already planning to dump her anyhow. However, I was able to prove that the juror had concealed her Dewey. Under oath, she lied. Oh, and I mentioned that they had no criminal record before, didn't I? Additionally, I first failed to notice it, but it was due to the fact that her name was misspelled in the court records pertaining to her arrest. But I was searching so hard because I despised her that I did locate it. And in yet another instance, I believe a juror entered the room and uttered the words, "I simply cannot sit on the jury. It is not something I will do." So, what's your go-to? The court may even ask you to argue for the juror's continued service in front of them. Thus, the juror expresses their dissatisfaction with being here. So, what are your plans simultaneously? Just tell her she can't leave this place. Nobody's judging. Oh, okay, I understand. She'll say afterwards, "Mr. Cohen, I will remain for as long as you desire." In other words, it's not possible. Shit. That concludes the 2 instances of that. In my opinion, that juror should not have been removed from the case. Because of that, it may change the outcome of everything. On the other hand, I feel bad about one accusation, but not about the other 2. In my opinion, it is the case. But what if? Might shift? Anything might happen. However, its release could be imminent. Negotiations may commence soon. Yeah. I believe they will finish in the following week. Even if they were planning on July, it looks like they should be finished next week, but I'm not sure. So, what else can the state impose? They pile it on top of all they've had, and it hasn't been great. In all candor, I do not believe it is beneficial for them. Personally, I believe they should have cut a deal with them a long time ago. The egos in SDNY are well known, though, in my opinion. On its demeanor, they are simply well known for it. In their minds, they are unparalleled. They constantly fail despite their belief that they can win every time. The SDNY has sent me attorneys who said foolish things and didn't even bother to file a motion to dismiss. That is their claim to fame. In my opinion, that's where they ran into trouble. I mean, they filed a lawsuit over it. As a result, they were caught red-handed on a few of these things. It seems like they need to move on with the case, even though I don't believe they can prove guilt on all 3 counts. That's the thing. I simply failed to perceive it. Whatever happens, I suppose we'll just have to wait. Rest assured, we will invite you back to discuss this and all the other controversies that have unfolded. Of course, listen, I believe this is the deciding factor in the prosecutor's career. I predict that a few of them will be annihilated. I believe you will find that some of them won't be returning to SDNY if they lose all 3 charges. That is a significant case. Yes, it is a significant instance. That's a heavy case. The fact that the film was leaked has sparked a great deal of discussion over the circumstances around its release. There seems to be a lot going on here, in my opinion. In my opinion, they're in for a rough week ahead unless they secure a conviction. We'll have to meet Bradford Cohen later. Your presence on Scandal is really appreciated, and we look forward to welcoming you back soon. Spending time with you is always fun. Don't miss any more updates by subscribing to our channel. That concludes today's Scandal episode. You may expect a great deal. The verdict might be just around the corner, as I mentioned before. You won't want to miss it. The continued receipt of your communications is also very appreciated. At Law&Crime.com, there is scandal, and I read each and every one of them. So, we appreciate everyone who has emailed us thus far, and I appreciate you tuning in to Scandal Today. Hi, I'm Sierra Gillespie, and I'll be happy to have you back next time.